G'day and welcome. I am so excited about this because it's been a long time in the waiting. I've been promising to get these two dudes, and I call them dudes, on My Blue Heaven. Absolute superstars in their own right. I've got Terry from Blue Abroad and Dan Williams, aka PommyinOZ. Thanks for joining me, boys.
Tell you what, 3 years of hard work just to be finally here on the My Blue Heaven channel. We've made it. I'm out of my comfort zone. I really am. I'll try and coordinate this to the best of my ability. But look, we're here because it's pretty fresh. I'm calling it that interview, the interview. And I spoke to you this morning via text messages, Pom. Is it a watershed moment, mate? This interview in 3 years' time, we look back at what Brian Cook said in this interview as a watershed moment.
I think it's a changing of the guard. I think that would be what I'd describe it as. It's the first time I've ever heard anyone at Carlton not waffle. I was impressed with it being, 20 minutes long, and he got through so many questions, actually answering the questions, not giving us we're trying to do this. This has been an obstacle, actually answering the questions. And in a way that probably wasn't fan-friendly. It was honest first, fan-friendly later. And I enjoyed that because sometimes I think the club have gone into a tangent of almost like when you're in trouble with your wife. You say what she wants to hear so she doesn't tell you off, as opposed to just being direct with the truth and saying, look, give me it now. And 5 years later, we're not going to have this argument. You said this. So I enjoyed that because I think that rubs off internally on the club. The club has always looked for excuses and tried to butter a turd. He's told us what the turd looks like and how we turn it into a cake. And that excites me.
Terry, you know I'm cynical, mate. And I put a video out a couple of months back when Voss was appointed coach and then Brian Cook was appointed CEO. And I said, right now, they're just appointments. Let's just wait and see for a change. A month down the track, we've heard from Brian Cook. What did you think, mate? I know you're on board straight away.
Yeah, he's how he is. What you see is what you get. He's not like he's obviously done the corporate thing and been very successful as a CEO for decades now. But I feel like the reason why he's been able to do that is because he's so real and he's himself and so seemingly calm in the shitstorm. Doesn't let the small stuff bug him. Says it how it is. Pom, you nailed it. Like, we heard things that we needed to hear. We didn't hear things that we wanted to hear. And in a funny way, that's how you build trust. And he even spoke about, well, you've got to be able to trust your leaders before you trust everyone else. And I mean, it was great. I'm not surprised. That's just always been how he's operated. And you know, it's good. Even just to see the fans' reaction to the truth was refreshing.
I mean, let's touch on that calmness. That comes obviously with age. I mean, he's no spring chicken, 66 years of age. He's been in the Cape for a long time, 30 years, had a lot of experience, expertise. Went through the Eagles in a really successful time, rebuilt Geelong, and now he's at Carlton. And that calmness you mentioned, Terry, unbelievable. I mean, this is a demeanour that we're not used to, Pom. A guy that can just come in and really just keep a sort of, I almost sort of feel like he's sort of come in to steady the ship. Maybe we are doing some things right, but he's come in just to guide us at the right time.
Spot on. I think we've done the hard work, haven't we? And I think at times we've blagged, to use an English phrase, we've blagged the hard work. We've said it's better than it is. You know, this time of year is really easy, I think, to judge Carlton, because usually it is, we're going to make the 8. That buys us till the bye. Everyone gets behind it. We pump 80k members out. Woohoo, we're back. And then we find out we aren't really much better than last year. What I think Brian Cook brings is not only the stability, but he brings a reputation that he isn't a guy molded for the job. He's molded the job to him. The last one, Kane Liddell, was the membership sales guy at Richmond. Richmond won a flag. Woohoo! Now he's the CEO. This guy is actually a CEO. And with him coming from Peebles as well in Scotland, you know he's no nonsense. He isn't going to fanny about. He's going to tell you the truth. And that is what we need. We need tough love. And it was a good start because he was tough love with the fans. He didn't say finals. He didn't say we're going to win flags. He said that it's hard work. And that is all we've ever asked, really. Can we see some hard work, not tell us? And I'm excited about that. And I think he's the man. I think he'll leave with a flag.
It's a simple formula, Terry. And we spoke about the calmness, but it's about belief and trust. He had that great analogy about the highway and all roads, all departments leading to the highway. I get a sense that he'll keep this calmness and demeanour no matter what's going on. You know, we as fans, we can't wait for round one. We can't wait for what happens on the field. I mean, a lot of the time we judge about the players when they cross the white line, and really that's all we can do. But we have to face the realities that it mightn't be what we want straight away, Terry. And he mentioned the highway, and I get a sense he won't panic. There's no U-turns. There's no getting off. It's about believing and trusting in the process and the core values that they put in place.
Yeah, I think when the pressure, because the pressure is going to come on us at some point next year, we're going to have some lean periods where we're figuring it out. And I think that's where we'll get another layer into how good he is at what he does. But what I feel when I was listening to it yesterday, when he was talking about we have all these roads and they're going to lead to one highway, and he was talking about we have 16 subcommittees and he wants to shrink that. And he even spoke about things that, you know, the fans have spoken about for the last few years, people getting in other people's ways. He actually addressed it. And I think, I mean, I don't know for sure, but my thought process was, all right, we had someone like Kane Liddell, great at the financial stuff, but when things happened, there might have been questions asked of his decisions internally, and that's maybe where crossover happens. Whereas I don't see that happening with Brian Cook, because he's done it successfully on a number of occasions now. So when he makes a decision, I feel like there's going to be a buy-in, not only from playing group and whatnot, but from the board, whatever he does recommend. And it's good to have an actual strong leader, as opposed to someone who we hope can become a strong leader. I think that's something we've done a lot of over the last few years. We go in, whether it's a player or a star, you know, an administrator, it's like, we've got this person in with the potential to become this. Whereas Brian Cook this is the guy, he's done it and he's proven.
Then just with Luke Sayers, he came in pretty heavy and we've all been impressed with him as well. But he did, and he's retracted somewhat since, but one of the first things he said was expectations was to play finals football next year. Do you think Brian Cook might have sat down with Luke Sayers and just said, let's just tone it down a little bit?
I think that may have happened. I always think that the expectation for every club, though, will be to play finals. I don't mind when a president says he's going to play finals, because I always view a president or a chairman, as we call them in the UK, as he's a super fan. He's the head of the fans. He's one of us who's in a suit. So I'd say everyone who supports Carlton Football Club expects finals. Yeah. But Brian Cook's a football operator. I expect he knows what the expectation, the limitation of this list is. And I think sometimes that there is a bit of pressure on the players when the whole club is saying broad statements like, we're playing finals. You look at the rebuild. The rebuild was the same thing. 5 years, miraculously, we'll go from shit to the top of the tree. But there was no progression. With Brian Cook, I imagine there's a progression. There's an expectation of 10 to 8 this year. Next year, 6 to 4. The big one. There'll be an actual plan, not a, you know what, I'm here today, 3 years we'll win a flag, but I haven't got a clue how we get there. And I think that's that road analogy he used really excited me, because he's right. We need to be channeling in the same way, not just say, right, set off now and we'll end up at Flagville. What is the direction to Flagville? Because no one's ever known. We just say it and hope it happens.
Terry, what sort of feedback are you getting, mate, in regards to the fans about expectations for next year, particularly early? Obviously, Richmond round one, there's a sense of excitement. With that will come expectations. Are you sensing that next year, like last year, should be the year? I mean, Brian Cook's come in and probably told us something that we're probably a little bit uncomfortable with, but we want to hear that. We want to hear maybe a more cautious approach. What are you hearing from the fans?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I can mostly speak on myself from how I'm feeling and a few comments, here and there. But I think there is a sense of, we're talking off camera, just feeling a little jaded with the year and the journey that we've been on. And this all apparently did start in 2015 with, the master plan, the rebuild and the 5-year plan and all of that. And so I guess I've gotten caught up in that and, we're in year 7 or year 6 of the rebuild kind of thing. And then when you hear Brian say, well, he was asked about the rebuild and he said, every club's trying to rebuild every year. And initially I was a little bit more frustrated because it was like what had happened in the past had really pissed me off, to be honest, because we've just been constantly fed this crap, which we knew was crap. But the reality is you can't hold on to it. You've got to move on. You've got to get on with it. Having said that, I just think whenever you have a group that's actually capable of playing finals, which I think this group is more than capable, and I know every other team in that bracket will say the same thing, but I really do believe we've got a lot more talent than the teams that are in that same bracket around us in that 8th to 13th spot, whatever it is. So yeah, the expectation is still there, but I hate the word patience. It is going to take some patience. It is going to take a little bit more patience, and it's hard because when you have constantly lost trust in the direction of the club, it's hard to just jump on again for another year, even though this really does feel and look and sound different. And we say it every year, but this does have a different sound to it. And of the comments and the messages that I've been getting, people are on board. I mean, people want to be on board. We all want to be on board. We'll find any reason to jump on ship. We're doing this video straight away, 24 hours afterwards. We're on board. So of course I'm excited, but it's just a mixture of feelings, and that's just kind of what this time of year is.
Dan, he spoke a lot about non-negotiables. A little bit of sort of corporate talk there with core values. He spoke about an open and genuine and trusting environment as one of the core values or a part of that core values. But what do you see the core values are at this football club? Do you see them to be different? Do you think he'll implement something a little bit different to what may have been in place over the last 5 years? Because we hear that, we've heard that a lot from Brian Cook so far. Non-negotiables are the club's core values. And look, when you hear the word core values, you automatically think, fucking bit of a wank. But when it comes out of the mouth of Brian Cook, you believe it.
I do. There was an old saying my pop taught me that never say shit travels downhill. Only results travel downhill. Yeah. And that's always stuck with me as a young kid, that what I do, if I'm the leader, reflects on the lowest denominator. And I think that the core values that we're going to see is a bit more accountability. I think Brian's leading the way in being open and upfront and honest and accepting of not only who we are, but what we are and where we're going. And I think that needs to reflect in the players. You hear, Terry's just said it and you said it as well, we always hear the same waffle. I want to hear the players be like Brian Cook and say, look, last week wasn't acceptable, and not be ashamed of falling short, but tell me how you're going to fix it. And I think the core value of this football club should be winning games first and foremost, but more importantly, being true to what you are doing, not being afraid of failure. I think for too long, this football club is so scared of failure that we build pipe dreams. And I'm hoping the core value to the players is belief in yourself and belief in what you've done and accounting for that, not being ashamed to lose, because you are going to lose. We are going to lose some games this year, but it's how they face that defeat. And with Brian, the way he talks, I feel more confident these boys aren't going to go in their shells, but they're going to rise to the challenge and they're going to relish having a chance to refix their first loss.
Yeah, great points, mate. Terry, with that, he also, one of the things I really liked what he said yesterday was the one or two things, and he didn't particularly mention them, that will give this football club a competitive edge, possibly, potentially over other clubs in the competition. I'm not quite sure whether he touched on what those, and I possibly see those as intangibles, things that you mightn't see as a football supporter, but within clubland, within the four walls, as we say, to use an old cliche, what do you think some of those things that he might be talking about in regards to implementing that will give this football club a competitive edge, the one or two things over the other clubs?
Well, I mean, I think our level of accountability, first and foremost, but like it's a beautiful word, but real accountability, like what happens when you're not at the football club? Because when you're at work and everyone's around you, everyone's watching you, of course you're going to be doing what you need to do. But I think it's what's happening away from the club. He also touched on the fact that he felt like it's kind of there, but it just needs massaging. And one thing I've noticed about our players, and look, some of the criticism this year has been that they're too nice on the field, and their persona off the field translates on the field. I think that can be a good thing. I think because Brian spoke about, character over talent.
Yep.
So I actually I would touch wood. You never know what's around the corner. Tim Payne, for example. But sorry to go off track. But the point is, I'm so confident in the character of our boys. Like they come from good backgrounds, and you can tell we've profiled a group of young men who have good values as human beings first. Luke Powell, when he spoke about fixing that disengagement between off-field persona and on-field, once we fix that up and they become a little bit more, I guess, assertive on the field, we'll start getting the best of both worlds. But I think accountability is a big one, especially when you talk about the gravity of who they are and where they play. They're not just playing for a football team; they're actually representing a massive community of people, and I think that needs to be embraced.
Yeah, Dan, just touching on the leadership, and Brian Cook spoke today on SEN in regards to Michael Voss, and the big thing about Michael Voss was his ability to lead men, not just the playing group, but also the staff under him, and he was very confident with that. I want to talk more about leadership and what Brian Cook said in regards to our players, because I've seen this as being a problem for a period of time now. Have we got the right leadership on the ground in place? He spoke about leadership in terms of it's not about you, it's about them. Is Patrick Cripps and Sam Doherty? I'm assuming Sam won't be captain of the football club next year. That's an assumption of mine, just because what he's been through. So it leaves Patrick Cripps. Do you see Patrick Cripps to be the captain of the football club in 2022, based on some of the things that Brian Cook has mentioned so far?
Yeah, I do. I think with Voss as well, his speciality, as Brian Cook says, is leadership. You see with the Port, he ran the leadership program, which the aim was from that to have 18 leaders on the field, not just a captain, 18 men willing to lead and drive each other. I do think Cripps has got all the facets of a leader. He's well liked, he's well respected, he's carried the team, he's got the experience of being at the lowest. I can't imagine any footballers in the league have been voted most valuable player and know that much defeat. He knows pain. So he's going to really embrace the victory and have that hunger. I think when I look at Cripps, though, what he needs to do, and he's old Carlton, he's one man and he doesn't trust the people around him. And that's what the sense I got from what Brian was saying in this interview. There's a lot of chefs, but no one's actually giving him the recipe. And I think Cripps needs to realise now that he can let go and lead. He doesn't have to lead by being the best player on the ground. He can lead by being the best character. And that's them words he's used today are really important. Character over talent. Too long have we picked on talent, not what they bring. So many times we've played a player there because of his talent and what he could be, but not what he is now. And I think that's something that Cripps will take into this year, that he doesn't have to be the best player. He just has to be the best leader, and everything will fall into place.
How would you massage him? You mentioned the word massage before, Terry. How would you massage Patrick Cripps? I mean, I think Dan just mentioned it beautifully. He doesn't necessarily have to be the best player. And I think part of the problem with Patrick Cripps over the last 3 or 4 years is I think he thinks he needs to be the best player. He needs to be potentially the best player in the competition. And everyone personally and individually has got an ego and you want to be the best. But when you're the captain of a football club, and we've mentioned this in the past, Trent Cotchin redefined his game to suit the betterment of the Richmond Football Club. And he was absolutely fantastic at it. How would you massage him? How would you massage potentially, Terry, Patrick Cripps's ego?
I mean, my observation, it's very hard when we're on the outside. So yes, we're ill-informed, but from what I'm seeing and the pieces I'm trying to put together, I would observe to say, go back to what made him Patrick Cripps, which was handballing to people and making them and handballing to people who are in a better position than what he is. And then number 2, lead the team in tackles. When he is at his best, he is the force in the midfield. He's just there. I think Max Gawn talks about when the D's play against us, him and Petrarca and Oliver, they all just take turns. I don't want to play on him. So don't make it so easy to play on him is what I would say. But ultimately, Michael Voss will know, because Michael Voss, I see similarities in the story of Cripps and Voss in being, the physical midfield beasts that they both, were and are. And then there's the leadership component. And then there was, when you look at, prior to when Brisbane went on that run, they were also not a very good side. And Michael Voss was going through his own battles and struggles. And that's why I want Cripps to stay as captain, because I think what makes a good leader is someone who actually overcomes what they need to overcome to reach where they need to reach. That's why I think Trent Cotchin has become such a great captain. It didn't look like that at the beginning, but it really did emerge like that. And so I would hope that we don't give up on Cripps as captain. I still think there's plenty for him to get the most out of himself. And I think Voss will be able to give him the tools and give him the wisdom and the nuggets that he needs to really go to that next level, which, I mean, if we're talking about Cripps reaching his best with Walsh and whatnot, you can't help but get excited.
Do you feel, Dan, that Sam Doherty will step aside from the captaincy? Is that what you're sensing?
I think it's tough to say. I mean, they've just said today, haven't they, that he hopes to return to training in December, but he's had 5 rounds of chemo. So, I mean, obviously that's not going to be a short-term turnaround, is it, really? He probably hasn't trained much at all, if anything. And my hope is that I hope he does stand down, because I think life's too short. Life's too short. And I think Cripps is probably grown enough now to do it on his own. It was always worded, wasn't it? Cripps needed a buddy, and it was too much. But I think Cripps has now become the man that can do it. And I just want Doc to focus on his life and his family. I mean, the poor guy has had the worst 3 years in the world, hasn't he? I mean, he couldn't get worse. So why would you want this stress and drama? I just want him to focus on what makes him happy. And if that's playing footy, so be it. But does he need the extra stress?
Terry, do you feel if Cripps is the man, who's going to be the apprentice? I mean, there's 2 standouts, obviously Sam Walsh and Jacob Wiedering. Who do you think, mate? I mean, you don't necessarily need your captain to be the best player. They're 2 outstanding footballers and 2 outstanding young men. But who do you think will be the next captain of the football club after Patrick Cripps?
I think it'll be Jacob. It's funny because I love Cripper. We all love Cripper. But where I think Jacob thrives is in his ability to communicate what he's saying in a really clear way. I think Cripps is just himself. They're both themselves. But I just think Jacob's got that cool, calm, collected, composed aura about him when he speaks. And he probably emerged more as a talker this year than what I had seen in the past. But my best guess would be Jacob and Walsh. But you know what? Harry really is really starting to show some serious maturity in the way he goes about things too. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's there as well. I mean, we're in really good hands when it comes to that next layer. And that's probably something, 5-6 years ago or 7 years ago, that's what we lacked. We had the Murphy, Cruiser, Gibbs, who were they great leaders? Don't know. Not all of them in their own way. But I think in this situation, we do have a bit of a pathway to the next level. And I even think if you look further ahead, You look at a guy like Stocker. I think he's got something in him as well when it comes to leadership. I think Brodie Kemp speaks very well as well. I think there's layers to what we've got on the list in terms of leadership.
Dan?
I always think it's Walsh. I think he is the captain-elect. I think that the way he handles himself, one of the youngest players in the AFL to be in a leadership group, captain as a junior, and I think he's the story for me for the young kids. I think when you think by the time Walsh takes over, we're probably in another micro rebuild, aren't we? So I reckon he is the guy that passes on the infinite wisdom. I think he's the natural apprentice. He's the Mark Murphy that we wished we had at the right time. He's the star player with a good team, as opposed to Mark Murphy was a star player with a bunch of hacks. So I think Walsh, for me, is the apprentice.
Running out of time, boys. I'm just going to leave you with a quick hypothetical. He mentions sustained success. That's his goal, sustained success. Are you taking a premiership in the next 5 years, or let's say 4 years, but up and down after that, like up and down, we're talking out of the 8 and not contending? Or are you willing to wait 10 years for a premiership on the 10th year, but we are a contender in pretty much every year in that 10 years? Terry?
Fucking hell, Bucky. As in we're good, we're a really good team, and we're slowly rising in that 10 years every year.
Yeah, we're contending like Geelong do, but we're not getting the premiership. We're getting it in the 10th year, or we get one in 4 years, but we sort of fall away after that.
Okay, yeah, I think I'll take the long option. I would.
Dan?
I don't want to flag and then to fall away. I don't want that.
Dan?
Yeah, I'd be willing to do this caper and be miserable for 10 years.
Beautiful, boys. Great to have you on. I am running out of time. I'm going to have to upgrade this Zoom so we can talk longer. It's been great to chat. Appreciate your time, and we'll speak very soon. Good on you guys.
Thanks, Bucky.
Cheers. Thanks, Bucky.
Cheers.